Yesterday we had our fall Zen meditation day, which was out at Big Bear in Walton, a little bit outside of town. Had a nice full group for that, and we really focused on this quality of like moving into the fall time, and typically if we look around at the trees, the leaves are beginning to change color, and then the leaves begin to fall away. So we kind of emphasize this quality of letting go, of releasing, of just kind of creating a space for the inner leaves to kind of fall away in our practice. And I think, like, with our meditation practice, one way to think about it is that, like, when you meditate, when you practice, maybe you're focusing on counting the breath down in your belly, for example, being with that moment to moment flow of your breathing down in your belly. Or maybe you're focusing on like following the breath, not counting, but just being there with those movements of your breathing low down in your body. Or maybe people are working on a koan, like, for example, the question, who am I? Like, just kind of focusing on that and then being open to what arises as a result. Having that questioning being kind of like your anchor to the moment. Or working on like the loving kindness practice, or on the unborn practice. Whatever our practice is, like when we sit or when we lie down and meditate, basically it's like the presence that you offer those practices, like your presence, your focus on that flowing anchor that we call our practice. When you do that, basically stuff begins to release out of that process. It's like our point of power in all of this work, in the unfoldment of all of this, is to just like put that sincere attention into our practice when we're doing it. And out of that, we don't have a say in what then kind of comes out of it. Like, we don't have a say into what arises and then passes away for us. We might have memories coming up. We might have sensations in the body. We might have feelings. We might have different thoughts that come up. Like, we don't get involved in what kind of arises out of our practice. But the more we can just be in the practice, bringing that presence, that intention, it's like the unfolding really looks after itself. The inner leaves, so to speak, they begin to kind of change and fall away for us. But we don't make that happen. Just through like kind of being the tree itself, the leaves and the stuff begin to kind of release and be let go and looked after. So again, I find it's helpful for me, like, just recognizing where my point of power with all of it is, and how it's just about really being here in the present moment, totally just being this moment, being your practice, whatever you're working with, And it's like out of that, having an openness, and everything else kind of looks after itself. So I find that if I can just remember to kind of keep coming back to that, to keep kind of opening into that, to keep settling back into myself, into whatever my practice is, stuff begins to happen. The letting go, the lightening of the load just naturally begins to do what it does. Some people, it can be very, very physical for them. Like they're sitting and they're being still, and it really takes on, like there's a physical dimension. Like you can really feel it in the body. Like stuff begins to kind of come out of your tissues. And it can be very physical. People can even feel sick. They can feel ill. They can feel headachy. Their joints can begin to hurt. They can feel exhausted. It's interesting what kind of comes out of it, but that if we can stay with it and allow it to have some space to play out and be felt and be open to whatever it is, stuff begins to change. We start to see ourselves in a completely different way. We start to let go of things that maybe have had a hold on us for years, maybe for our whole life. So the more we just kind of stay with the practice and kind of trust the process, things begin to kind of happen, and we begin to see more and more clearly who and what we really are. Often the stuff can be kind of like a veil for us. We're identified with something, but the more we give it space to kind of fall away, we start to see ourselves. We come home to who we really are. We come home to ourselves in a completely different way that maybe we forgot long ago. We kind of rediscover something that's always been here, but it can feel like a coming home for people. So there's a kind of a well-known fall koan, or like a fall story, where somebody asks this Zen master Ummon. Ummon was a pretty well-known Zen master in China over 1,000 years ago. Looks like from 862 to 949 CE. And the story is that a monk comes up to him, or a person, and basically says, "How will it be when the trees wither and the leaves fall? How will it be when the trees wither and the leaves fall?" So they're asking about this process of life and aging and dying and falling away, that kind of continual cycle of things changing, we are changing, and we're beginning to, we're going to pass away, we're going to die, our leaves, ourselves, we're not going to always be here like this. And and then Ummon says, "You embody the golden breeze." So his response is, you embody the golden breeze. So he's like, in response to this question about the change, the withering and the dying, he says, actually, there is that, but there's also something that always underlies that. There's this golden breeze, and that's not actually something outside of you. You actually are that golden breeze. So he's kind of pointing to like a different kind of freer, more open perspective into like what we are and what this person is. So on the one hand, we are definitely part of this living, this dying, this aging, this changing. We are that. But on the other hand, we're also something greater than all of that. In Zen, we talk about like the great life of the universe sometimes. Like within this kind of great life of the universe, this eternal kind of beginningless and endless flow of the universe, there's this, all of this living and dying and changing. But it's like, it's held within this kind of greater take or this greater perspective on things. So like coming home, the idea is for us to kind of come home to this great life of the universe that we always have been and that we always will be and that we are right now, every moment, moment after moment. But it's to notice that, to come back to it, to rest in it, and then to engage with life and the changes that happen in life from that point, from that perspective. I studied a little bit with a couple years in at Bukokuji, which is a temple in northern Japan, on the Sea of Japan, with this wonderful Soto Zen teacher, Zen Master Tongen. He recently kind of put out this book on his teachings. And the title of the book is Throw Yourself into the House of Buddha. Just throw yourself into the house of Buddha. So this great life of the universe, sometimes it gets called in the Buddhist tradition, the great life of Buddha. So a Buddha is seen as like an awakened being. And his teachings, he would always say, just let go, surrender, open to, and throw yourself into this like great life of the universe, this house of Buddha. So Zen Master Ummon, he's really kind of pointing people in that direction, like, well, look at what underlies all of this. Really try to go for that. Really set your sights on directly knowing that in the fibers of your being, in your bones. Just have that intention to come back to what holds all of this. That flow of the universe that's constantly happening. So in Daizan's book, Daizan was out here a few weeks ago from the UK, this practical Zen yoga book. He talks a little bit about this golden breeze that we are in the fall season here. And it says, this energy has its own agenda. This energy, we can only align with it by getting out of the way. So we align with it by getting out of the way, like ourselves, our small selves. So we kind of step aside and we let something bigger flow through. When we get out of the way, we come into this new mode of being, the letting go of the old and the letting come of the new. We find what Zen calls the life of Buddha, the life without beginning or end that is not personal, and yet it's intimately yours. And your consciously lived experience converges with this life of the universe. Your loss is simultaneously your gain. Your limited human fallibility comes together with your absolutely unlimited indestructibility. Life in all its pain and loss and tragedy is at the same time utter, breathtaking infinitude. So it's interesting how there's this personal reality and there's a truth to that. You are you. We are ourselves. We're unique. And we have a period of time that we're around. But it isn't just the personal. There's also this kind of infiniteness to what we are. And this is something that we can tap. We don't have to wait until we die to tap into. This is something that we come to know and that we can live from in a very true way, like right now. And in our practice and in our life, it can become very, very much our like norm for how we function and how we see our lives and how we interact. So we're letting go moment by moment. Our practice is a wonderful portal into kind of seeing this, or into letting the inner stuff drop away in its own time. And then all of a sudden, there it is. We're home again. We're back. We know what we are. And lots of people could say otherwise, but we know in the fibers of our being who we are, what we are. There's a nice account of like this realization in the Enlightenment Intensive book. This woman, Janet, she says, she was working kind of in a group Sanzen retreat here. And she kind of has this shift. She says, I was just going along in the practice, working on the question, who am I? And I was listening to my partner since it was their turn. And in the middle of it, this thing happened. It wasn't really an experience. It wasn't really like anything I've ever experienced. And it really took me by surprise. I wasn't thinking about my question, my koan, or anything. I was just listening. But this realization came with it, these words that I am the truth. I'd been working hard yesterday and today trying to experience the truth of who I am. And what I experienced is that I am the truth. I'm it. It's not like there's me and then there's the truth of me. It's not something separate from me. I am the truth. I'm it. The truth isn't some concept. If somebody wants the truth, they're going to have to deal with me. I'm the truth itself. There's nothing else to say, really. I just keep wanting to say it. I'm the truth. There's not me and then the truth somewhere else over there. I feel like I want to tell people, especially people who are looking for the truth, that they are it. It's not something outside of us. It's us. So that's kind of an interesting kind of a coming home moment there, kind of like a Kensho moment, noticing what she like just kind of all of a sudden it just kind of appeared for her, and she knew that she is the golden breeze, and there's no doubt about it. So I think the fall season is a wonderful time for us to undergo this deep process of kind of letting go, how it very naturally happens for us, how it's happening all around us in nature. And we kind of just embody that. We allow that to happen. We allow the leaves to fall away when they're ready. And at the same time, how we can touch into this kind of greater life of the universe that's flowing and unfolding moment by moment. We can be there moment after moment, letting go of the old, opening to the new, letting go of the old, opening to the new.